And we're live. What's up, guys?
Hello. Magandang gabi sa inyong lahat. Yes, and good evening. Welcome to our broadcast for today. Of course, with me tonight, our co-host, none other than the CTO of the Altash blockchain, and of course from EOS Philippines as well, Mr. Joseph Sylvester. Hello, Joseph. What's
Hey,
up?
hey guys. How's everybody doing?
And of course, we have our very special guest for tonight's broadcast. Walang iba kundi ang CSO of Blumex, Mr. Luis Buenaventura. Hi Luis.
Good
Say hi to
evening,
the audience.
everyone. Good day, managers.
Yeah, good day, managers. And of course, none other than our ano no, yung ating guest palagi and sana hindi siya magsawa, our good friend and the birthday boy, Attorney Rafael Padilla.
Thank you
Happy
very much.
birthday, Raf.
Good evening,
Allow
community.
me
Thank you.
allow me to play something for Attorney Rap. Oh, sige,
Uy.
saglit lang. Ayan.
Thank you. Pwede bang NFT
Ayun.
na lang?
Birthday ni Attorney Rap ngayon, guys. Batiin nyo naman sa comment section. Please write down, happy birthday, Attorney Rap. On the
Airdrop.
comment section. Ayan. Yun. Happy birthday, Attorney Rap again. Yan. Very, thank you for ano. Napaka-special nung broadcast natin ngayong gabi. No? Isipin mo, we have our birthday celebrator. Diba? Gracing us with his presence. So before we actually proceed with our discussion, per se, we have two parts for this discussion tonight. Again, just to give our audience a background. And siguro kasi narinig nyo na no, that we have this current issues, mainit na mainit in your news feeds right now, where we are talking about taxation, BIR, SEC, and of course, cryptocurrency and blockchain. So with that, without further ado, allow me to give you some of the news that we found in the web, and we will discuss it shortly. And news updates for August 26, 2021. This one came from Mint. This is actually a newsletter for cryptocurrency markets. And if you will see, it's discussed here that CBDC has been gaining traction recently. For the purpose or the benefit of those who just watch us o yung mga bagong nagtutune in pa lang dito sa channel natin right now, CBDC is actually central bank or digitally issued currencies. So these are similar to cryptos, but this is centralized rather. So this is digital currency, but maybe you will be asking, what is its difference pagdating sa dun sa mga kagaya ng mga known parang digital money that's out there, like for example yung kina GCash, Paymaya. What's the difference of it from CBDC? Now, CBDC will be issued directly by Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. For example, if we will have our own CBDC. And unlike yung mga digital currency na naka-store sa GCash, it's backed by still backed should be by a physical currency na circulated by BSP. Ito hindi na niya kailangan ng backing. Why? Because the issued digital currency itself is the legal tender, yung mismong CBDC. So right now this is gaining traction in the globe. So not just in the Philippines, but I'm meaning to say countries and governments are looking into this. So this is one of the things that we are watching out as of this moment. Next, we have this one from this is from Join Extra Crunch. Regulating crypto is essential according to Henrik Gebing, one of their writers. Sabi niya, regulating crypto is essential to ensuring global legitimacy. I've read the news about this article particularly, and what it is discussing is more on the government acceptance. So it's still like this is about how will the government accept cryptocurrencies as currency, or yeah, or possibly as a legal tender. Sabi niya, it's by actually ensuring having a regulatory for crypto. So yun yung pinaka bottom line of this news. And speaking of regulating cryptocurrencies, we have this news coming from Philstar Global. Ito very hot topic, and this is what we are about to discuss in a while. Sabi dito, BIR to go after cryptocurrency deals. According to the Finance Secretary, Antoinette Tionco, he told the reporters that they're assessing how they can put system to foreign firms, no, like Axie Infinity. So this is in an effort to actually collect taxes from their activities. And with that, I would like to, invite in the table our guest and start discussing itong topic na ito at hand. So yeah, who wants to go? I think Louis. I see Luis unmuting his mic, and maybe you wanted to say something. Yes, Luis.
Well, I mean, I think that with the BIR, the BIR has been looking for new places to build revenue from the Filipino people. I mean, we're also coming up to an election year, so naghahanap talaga yung mga yan ng pagkakakitaan. And I'm sorry if that sounds very anti-government. I don't mean for it to be like that, but I guess it's one of the things that is on the minds of Filipinos, the Axie players specifically, who are suddenly going to be faced with these realities. Now, I mean, I obviously don't advocate for people to evade taxes. I don't think that that's a good idea. Firstly, it's a crime. But I also think that maybe the government could do a little bit better with its maybe giving some education beforehand. Parang wag naman yung lang. Like if you actually watch the interviews, not by Chonko, but like one of the other BIR spokespersons, one of their lawyers, she was saying things like, if you don't file or if you don't register now, you could be liable for late payment penalties. And in the worst case, it could also result in imprisonment or jail time. And I'm like, I don't think that these are the correct ways to encourage people to, to follow the law. I feel like there are better ways to go about it. And maybe they should have done some kind of reach out first to the community. At least maybe try to learn a little bit more about what the situation actually looks like. Because I think that the people that you will find that the average Axie player is probably not even going to have 250,000 pesos in earnings by the end of the next tax year. Because I mean, very few of them started a long time ago, no? Like many of them started just in the last 3 months. Eh. So parang I feel like there are ways to do this communication better. I guess they didn't coordinate it. And threatening people with jail time is definitely the wrong way to do it. And I kind of wish there was a little bit more empathy. Yun lang, I guess that's it. I mean, I'm not trying to be anti-government. I just wish there was a little bit more empathy with the approach. And that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much, Luis, for that insight. No, so I would like to hear also insight from attorney. Of course, again, our birthday boy, attorney Rafael Padilla. Happy birthday, sir.
Hello. No, I right now what we have from BIR and other financial regulators are like statements coming from or quoted from interviews, right? And some maybe some news reports, interview like press conference. I don't know exactly, but it might be possible that they're just really responding to queries. And so the statements were could appear to be reactive but doesn't really capture what the poly is in relation to this matter. So I actually urge the community to be patient and let's wait for something black and white in the form of maybe public advisory, revenue regulation, like what they issued with respect to social media influencers or circulars, because that's something that clearly outlines the policy. Uh, there might be a problem in messaging here, but at the same time, maybe they just don't want to like give a response like no comment until we've studied this further, because that's one pattern that you'll notice in the various quoted statements from the BSP, SEC, and BIR, statements like we're still studying this. And then it was followed by general statements, right? Like if you're going to talk to your accountant or talk to your lawyer, these are things that your lawyers will also say. And they're just echoing those general principles, no? Like you should register, you should pay. So I understand that it did not sound so good, but I can also imagine that if I'm working as a regulator, I will probably be upset and annoyed also with the reporters who might have tend to sensationalize these articles for clickbaits. Because if you read the article, it seems like the regulators only tend to or only want to capture income for purposes of taxation or to capture this businesses as a new regulated activity. I don't think so. So yeah, let's wait for something black and white, as I've said earlier, regulation, advisory, or anything, any statement from them rather than just quotations from news reports.
Yeah. I mean, I take your point, Raf, and you're right. The press does definitely kind of gosh, what's the kind way to say it? I guess sensationalize is the kind way to say it na nga, na ano, parang they take something that you said and they try to make it a little bit more worthy of a click.
Yeah.
And yeah, I take your point. I think yung the thing that I was reacting to personally was yung in a recorded interview where you could actually hear the BIR spokesperson like saying those words, no, na ano nga, like she was talking about the Axie players and not just the Axie players also, but like content creators and social media influencers. Now, yun nga, like, and she was saying things like, if you don't register and then file and then all of those things, these are the consequences of that. And maybe I feel less empathetic towards the influencers and the content creators because I feel like those people probably have a little bit more parang they're coming from a slightly more parang capable background. But with the Axie players, kasi yung demographic then is very, very like, it's very kind of low income. And I just felt like it felt like a tone deaf thing to say. Na parang I wish they had kind of softened that a little bit to make it feel like the government actually cared a little bit about the people they were asking for money from. And yun lang. But you're correct with the whole sensationalist perspective na, some of it is the media kind of making this stuff a little bit more interesting to read. Yun lang. I wish there was a little bit more empathy. That's all.
I agree kasi that's a challenge with regulators, no? They should have at least some PR guys to actually be helping them with the communication part.
Wala
Maybe
atang
that's
ganun dun eh. But yes.
baka wala.
But yes.
Yeah.
Siguro dapat nangyari. So may pressure na for on their part to respond kasi ang dami nang nagtatanong. Not just media, individuals have been asking them. Actually, dapat ang nangyari siguro, pinakamaganda, na unahan na nila ng statements.
Right.
No, rather than just if they can no longer just respond by saying no comment, that's the problem, the dilemma of the regulator. If they don't do anything, the people will say that they're asleep at the wheel. If they do something, people will say that they tend to be control freak. No, damn if they do, damn if they don't. So if it has already come to this point that Axie is already such a phenomenon that they cannot just give a no comment, it should have prompted them to issue a statement or an advisory so that we can rely on those statements rather than on those piecemeal quotations that we found from news reports.
That's true. Speaking of piecemeal quotes that I thought was freaking hilarious, someone else from the BIR also went on record recently and was saying that, they were reminding the public that if you report on someone who evaded taxes, you could be rewarded. There's a bounty for these things too. Na up to 1 million pesos yung reward. It's like, Jesus. I was like, this is really a strange message.
Okay, I'm just not sure. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. But from what I have observed, if I'm correct, it actually started from Mon Abrea, si Tax Wiz, who said he might be responding to a question and then maybe nasabi niya na merong ganung reward, no? But Mon Abrea is tax examiner now. He's serving, of course, the private sector. He's a very good tax consultant. But he was from what I've noted, siya yung unang nagsabi no na I could be wrong. Again, correct me if I'm wrong. In that case, it's more of us, a private sector, saying, "Hey, watch out, kasi otherwise, may reward, no."
Yeah. I mean, yung 1 million peso reward na yun naman, that's the maximum. And the reward is supposed to be a proportion of the taxes that were actually captured from that person. So very likely, kung nireport mo ito si James, yung Axie earnings niya, kung nireport ko siya, I don't think I'll make 1 million pesos from it. Although I might. Given how much James is earning from Axie Infinity, I might actually make 1 million pesos. That's actually possible. By the way, joke lang yan, guys.
Bro. Kaya...
That's a joke.
For sure. But kidding aside, I think yun nga, going back dun sa point that I think they actually need help on the PR side kasi nga hirap silang hirap silang mag-relay ng message properly or empathetically speaking, di ba? So I guess that's where the problem lies. Kanina before the broadcast, I believe nung kwentuhan namin ni Luis, sabi namin just for the audience to understand and to know also. I think the government should also have someone from the community, this sector of the community, to consult with. Kasi like there are individuals, hindi naman lahat ng earning from cryptocurrency, Axie for example, do not want to pay taxes. Like I for one, wala tayong problema. I would pay my tax. Pero ang sinasabi ko kanina kina Luis before attorney came in is why don't they actually source people from the community and for consulting purposes, 'di ba? For them to understand. Kasi I doubt if they have ito ang doubt ko, Attorney Padilla, that they have 100% idea on what's going on with blockchain and crypto to begin with. So, yeah, they understand how the law might work or how the taxation goes. Pero how blockchain and cryptocurrency per se, baka ayun, I'm in doubt na naiintindihan nila yan 100%. So they really need help. I think.
Gentlemen, would you agree with me? I don't know this for sure, lalo na because we're in the same community. But would you agree with me that cryptocurrency is now mainstream? Or if
Yes,
not Bitcoin, maybe Axie.
definitely
Hirap ng
so.
tanong na yun.
Yeah,
Okay. So let me give you two anecdotes to counterpoint, because I know that we're on a crypto show. So I mean, clearly the audience here probably knows what we're talking about. Pero so two days ago, I did a show for Jing Castañeda. Si Tita Jing. Anyway, whatever. So she has 11,000. She had 11,000 viewers on her stream on Kumu while we were talking. Her first question was, ano ba talaga ang cryptocurrency? Right? Okay. Tapos after that, her next question was, ano ba talaga ang NFT? And then third question was, ano ba talaga ang Axie Infinity? So I kind of have this feeling that we think that we're mainstream because we are surrounded with people who are into these things and they're watching our shows, they're reading our blogs, they're commenting on our Facebook posts.
yeah, echo chamber.
Oo eh. Pero kasi like dude, like the more stuff I do, the more interviews I do in the real mainstream. So like the Jessica
Yung
Soho thing that we
non-crypto,
did
no?
nung weekend.
Oo.
Right.
Oo.
The first question was, what is cryptocurrency? So, parang hindi pa eh. I don't think so. I think that Axie Infinity is a really funny way to, yun yung parang gateway for a lot of normal Filipinos to learn about cryptocurrency. But I actually think that parang the vast majority is still kind of very unaware of these things. I think. Based on yung mga tanong sa akin ng mainstream media.
Yeah, the reason why I asked that question is because if crypto is already mainstream, we probably have people working at the BIR, working at the BSP, working at the SEC, right? Investing or trading crypto on the side. And believe me, I do know people from the BSP, SEC, BIR, including BIR, who approached me and mentioned to me that they're trading cryptocurrency. And if we have these people who are already dealing with crypto and they have exposure. I know somebody, by the way, working at the BSP who's actually wrote a book about crypto and blockchain, diba? Published in I think early 2019, early 2019. Hindi niya work ang crypto and blockchain sa BSP, ibang work niya sa BSP, but he wrote a book.
Interesting.
So this is private niya yon. That's his private affair. Such that it's very easy for the SEC and BIR to form a team, no? Pool nila yung mga yung mga talents na yon who already have some foundation, and they can easily set up or establish a crack team, no? Oh, it's very good who understands crypto, fintech, blockchain, and become basically the resource of these agencies, no, to address these very important issues concerning the legal and regulatory implications of blockchain and crypto.
James, baka dapat yung next na group of scholars mo, hanapin mo from inside BIR.
Pwede.
Doon ka na lang magpa-scholar. Di ba?
No. Yeah, but kidding aside, I agree with Attorney Padilla that, and I hope they really do that.
Yun. Yeah.
Oh, I really hope they do that kasi those mahirap
doing that already.
mahirap kasi na
recently, diba, they launched the what they call it, Philippine Tech Innovation Office.
Yeah.
Those sino yung mga nandun? Sino yung mga members, probably yung na elite nila who knows a lot already about fintech and crypto.
Right.
I agree. I agree on that part na sana nga ganyan yung gawin nila kasi it will be very hard, attorney, na isipin mo they will try to regulate us and then the regulators have no idea on what they're actually regulating. Pero there's this may nag-message sa akin and he's asking a question. Sabi niya, why will the government regulate something that they don't believe in. Like they don't believe in cryptocurrency as value. Yun yung parang ano yung tanong niya. So, I am not sure of the government stand about this. Maybe the gentleman here
Yeah.
can help me. Um,
Depende.
hindi ko
Yeah,
kayang
depende
sabihin na
siguro
hindi or
kung
hindi.
sino nagsabi nun. Kasi if you're gonna talk to BSP and you ask them if crypto or Bitcoin or whatever cryptocurrency for that matter is currency, their answer is no. Kasi specifically defined under the BSP charter, no, what currency is. And under the BSP charter, currency means Philippine peso as legal tender, right? Other forms of currency they don't recognize. But with respect to the BIR, the tendency, of course, of the BIR is to capture as much income in whatever form it is, no. So most likely makakapture siya ng definition na ano ng value. Actually ginagamit nga sa sa mga literatures ng mga BIR issuances is exchangeable value, no. It does not have to be in legal tender for something to be taxable, which is an interesting point kasi I remember parang last discussion natin last time na tanong pa sa akin ni Luis, no. Is it necessary for crypto to be converted in order for tax liability to arise? And my view there is no. I've noticed a good friend of mine, si Attorney Mike David, recently presented
Sa
sa
Taksumo kahapon.
Yesterday.
And this is why I think another reason why it's very important for BIR to issue an advisory revenue regulation or circular to clarify these points. Kasi with much respect, Attorney David is a good friend of mine, but and during his presentation, he emphasized on many in several times, no, as a key to determine the taxability, yung conversion. It's key to determine daw yung realization ng income, no. With due respect to my good friend, no, I don't agree with that view. So if a gentleman like Attorney David and I, who have been exposed to this ecosystem and these transactions, could not even agree at this important point, then 'di ba, lalo na siguro yung community tsaka industry. So
Ras, can you expound a little bit on why you think that it's at the point of earning and not at the point of liquidation?
Conversion, right?
Yeah.
It boils down to the definition of taxable income tsaka yung income. Tsaka to determine whether something is already considered an income in case law or Supreme Court decisions, we have different tests, right? Mm-hmm. And what Attorney Mike David referred to justify yung position. And by the way, please note that Attorney Mike David is also a certified public accountant. So his view on this assume a legal and an accounting layer. So that's very insightful, no. Mm-hmm. But he repeatedly cited yung realization test, no, to in order for an income to be considered taxable, such that because crypto does not have value until it is converted. Something to that effect. I hope I'm not bastardizing the comment, but essentially that's the bottom line. It has to be converted in order for us to determine the value and determine the extent of tax. All right. Mm-hmm. However, there's another test. It's called economic benefit test. That as long as your net worth has already increased because of your income in whatever form it is, as long as that income its value can be determined, no? The so-called exchangeable value, it's already taxable. In the case of Bitcoin or other cryptocurrency, we know the fair market value of the currency, right? You just go to CoinMarketCap or you just go to the price of the exchanges here in the Philippines, and then you know that, and so that's something that you can use. However, if I am correct with this view, the problem, however, is the accounting aspect of this, and I think in the previous meeting we've already discussed that. How practical is it for somebody to record the income upon receipt when it's still in SLP or it's still in AXS or it's still in Bitcoin, noting that the price fluctuates. You're a miner, you receive it now, but you sell it next day or next year, right? right? So it moves. You have to, but that for me is the accounting problem, which could be resolved. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but that can be resolved. The other aspect of this is the legal aspect, how we determine whether income is taxable. All right. And again, my point is I can be wrong here, right? But if I am correct, or at least if my opinion makes sense, and Attorney David does not agree with it, obviously somebody needs to clarify this, right?
Right.
And it's BIR. And just a precedent, no, in the United States, and many of our tax rules or tax laws principles are adopted pattern from the U.S. Federal income tax law. No, in the United States, you don't need to convert your crypto to US dollar for that to become taxable. Upon receipt, of course, it depends on the underlying transaction, whether you're receiving it as a salary or whether you're receiving the cryptocurrency, for example, for a mining activity, or for example, you're receiving it because you withdrew it with the intention of later converting it to the local currency for purposes of cashing out effectively. No, all that affects the analysis, but essentially it does not have to be converted in order for income to arise. No, that's the interpretation in the United States, and I just think it
Okay.
might be applicable also here in the Philippines.
Okay. So I actually wasn't aware of how they were doing it. Like, parang I guess that's the reason why they were asking Coinbase for transaction records and all of that stuff. It's probably because they needed to know exactly, parang what the liability looked like for the individual customers. It's weird though, because I can't imagine that would be realistic for a lot of Axie players.
I agree.
Because yung parang how do you even define that? Kasi the way that the system currently works, and if we want to be Attorney Rafa's being very legal, I'll be very technical naman. The thing about the SLP earnings is technically hindi na create yung SLP until the moment that you claim it. Right? There is no actual SLP in existence yet until the moment that you claim it. And usually that happens after 14 days of playing the game. So until that time, that account balance that you're looking at, actually, hindi totoo yung number na yun eh. That is just parang IOU lang yun eh. And then, at the end of the 14 days, or even longer kung hindi mo siya claim, at the end of the 14 days, you click claim, and then that's the only moment that the SLP is minted for the first time. And then it's now in your wallet. Now it's under your possession on the blockchain. No, so I wonder if I wonder how you would parang apply those rules.
What's going to be the implication of that, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
So you see, there's a lot of nuances here, circumstances here that affects the analysis. Like as you've mentioned, you cannot actually claim it until 14 days.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Which means effectively until you're able to withdraw it, you're not the owner of that. No. And in determining whether something is already a taxable income, we also have this so-called claim of right doctrine. No. Under the claim of right doctrine, the suggestion is you can only determine whether something is an income when you are already in the position that you can enjoy it, use it, and therefore you're the owner of it. So if we'll apply that claim of doctrine here in the case of SLP, at the time that you requested its withdrawal, it's not yet considered a taxable income. But from the time that it becomes available and you can already withdraw it, that's when it becomes taxable. The fact of you withdrawing it, pag winidraw mo siya, hindi pa yung taxable. Sorry. Pag the fact na natanggap mo na siya and you can now withdraw it, pwede mo na siyang considered na siya na taxable even if hindi mo siya i-withdraw. Let me give a quick analogy, example. Sa mga bank accounts natin, sa bank accounts natin meron diyang di ba? We pay a passive income tax there, di ba? 20%, di ba? Na withholding tax. You'll notice you don't have to withdraw the funds for that to be taxable. It gets taxed the moment it is received, no? So in your case, as long as nasa account mo na siya, pwede mo na siyang withdraw, it becomes taxable already even if hindi mo pa siya wini-withdraw. So sa case nung sa SLP, ganun din siya. Kapag pwede mo na siyang withdraw pero hindi mo na siya hindi mo pa siya wini-withdraw, taxable na siya. But if you'll notice in the way I'm explaining this, the liquidation or the conversion to peso or whatever legal tender does not affect the analysis insofar as the taxability of the income is concerned.
Right.
Mm.
Yeah. So it's
May
very
question ako.
interesting.
Sige. Go.
Yeah, it's very interesting because parang there is it actually does make it a slightly easier because of how Attorney Raf was explaining it, because so I just withdrew my first SLT claim yesterday, so I actually have the number very fresh in my mind. So kaka-claim ko pa lang eh. So I withdrew 2,480 SLP, right? And the price at the time was 7 pesos and 50 centavos. So yun, so parang I'm pretty sure I'm off by maybe a few decimal points, but it's very close. So in other words, yung relative value noon probably about 21,000 pesos. So okay, what Attorney Raf is saying is whether or not kinonvert ko yung SLP na yon into pesos at the time, I am subject to 21,000 pesos in earnings. Therefore, at some point in the next tax year, I will be subject to some tax based on that.
Yeah.
Tama? Right.
Kasama
Okay.
siya sa taxable income mo.
Right. So yung 21,000 pesos na yun is now going to contribute to whatever my total earnings of the year is.
Mhm.
Whether or not ginawa ko siyang SLP kahapon. Although I did turn it into pesos yesterday. So thank God for that, because otherwise, like, you don't know, di ba? Kasi tapos medyo masama pa yung forecast for SLP, di ba? Kasi medyo pababa siya ngayon. So yung big problem ng mga players is they don't want to be stuck holding it, because not only is it an asset that happens to be volatile in the wrong direction, like it's going down, but you might also end up being liable for more taxes than you should be, because you are being taxed at the point of claim, not at the point of actual liquidation. Yeah, so it's very interesting na thinking about these implications.
I have a question, Attorney Rap, about dun sa, di ba, hindi factor yung pag-withdraw, conversion. Kasi, if for example, I don't withdraw, I just leave my SLP in the wallet, then you tax me based from the time that it was, di ba, it arrives on the wallet. Let's put it that way. Would it, well, ako personally, this is a question. Hindi ba unfair, for example, kung like, for example, it arrives in my wallet at 20 pesos, for example, and ngayon 750. And then pagdating ng taxation season, magpa-file ako ng tax ko, paano kung 5 piso? You will still file it like 20 pesos, right? So, ang ano ko doon, personally, this is a personal opinion, and this is just my personal take and taking a stab on it, na I am actually, sabi ko nga kanina during off-air, I'm actually okay paying taxes na, sige, when it arrives in my wallet, provided that the government will actually give me a facility to pay it in crypto para fair. Why? Kasi fluctuate yung crypto eh. So, if for example, crypto rin yung pambabayad ko sa'yo, government, for example, like, di ba, 32%. Di ba? I pay you 32% of worth of crypto, tumaas o bumaba yung pesos, yung peso value niya. So I don't parang personally I wouldn't have problems with that.
Okay.
But
James,
I think,
you are gonna regret saying that if you have to pay taxes a year from now in Bitcoin or Ethereum. Like, kasi you're thinking of the situation na pababa yung price eh. Pero paano kung tumaas siya?
Exactly.
Like, paano kung next year $20,000 na yung Ethereum? Like, you don't really want to be hit by taxes like that.
Kasi volatile siya, it doesn't nagfa-fluctuate yung market value niya. So, hindi naman natin masasabi kung tataas o bababa. That's why accounting is very important, no? And unfortunately, it's up to the law requires The BIR expects that it will be the taxpayer who will be determining the fair market value with the assistance, of course, ng hopefully ng mga accountants, no, for this. So definitely the government will not accept Bitcoin as payment of taxes. So mangyayari dito, you assess your tax, your applicable your taxable income, you determine the applicable tax rate, no, after deductions, and then you'll arrive at a taxable yung ano mo yung the tax liability mo. Let's say for example that's 1 million pesos. Saan mo ngayon kukunin yung 1 million pesos? Hindi ka, never ka naman nag-liquidate, no? On the assumption na nag-earn ka na lang. Tapos you have a tax liability of 1 million. Anong gagawin mo? You really have to sell so that you can pay for that. This is why, if you'll notice, kahit, di ba napansin yung trend, Luis might have noticed this as well. Around April or even March or April of every year, medyo bumababa yung price ng cryptocurrencies, no? Ang reason doon kasi actually ang daming nagli-liquidate ng crypto for the purposes of paying their tax, no, income tax. So what that tells us is that many people don't really sell that much, but just to cover for their tax liability, they have to sell some crypto for so that meron silang pangbayad, no? So that's what I mean when I also said that hindi talaga kailangang i-convert para ma-determine natin yung tax liability mo. And once you have determined your tax liability, it's up to you now to source the funds to cover for that, to pay for that.
Interesting. Okay.
I see.
Okay.
Ito lang, merong question dito, attorney, in the comment section. Sabi, if for example it will be regulated, will the government ask for income tax or more like a capital gain? So, paano ba yung ano niyan?
Okay. So speaking of capital gains, na good friend of mine, Attorney David, also analyzed yung capital gains tax implication niya. Again, this is where BIR really needs to come out with an advisory circular revenue regulation. In my view, hindi masyado relevant yung capital gains tax when we talk about cryptocurrency transactions. And the reason for that is because here in the Philippines, capital gains are taxed in the same manner as ordinary gains, no, except for two types of transactions, no. Transactions relating to real estate and transactions relating to shares of stocks that are not listed in the stock exchanges. Kasi if it's listed in the stock exchange, meron yung special na stock transaction tax. So if we're talking about capital real estate transactions, like a sale of real estate transactions, merong special na capital gains tax rate yan. Pagdating sa sale or disposition of shares of stock, not listed in the stock exchange, no, like for example, BloomX, Louis Company, subject yan sa special capital gains tax rate then. But every other property, whether that's your car, ano pa ba, cellphone mo or whatever valuable you have, including crypto, kahit pa may capital gains ka dyan, ang tax niyan yung katulad din sa ordinary gains. May difference lang siya when it comes to accounting kasi under the National Internal Revenue Code din, meron siyang special rule on how you're supposed to account for capital gains versus capital losses and how you're supposed to account for ordinary gains versus ordinary losses. But the point is, once you determine how much you gained sa capital gains mo, same lang din naman ang income tax no. So for individuals is the progressive rate na up to 35% yung top rate niya, or for companies or corporations 25%, no. It's not like capital gains tax to. Nag-trade ka ng crypto and then kinarakterize natin na capital gains yung transaction. Therefore, meron niyang i-apply na capital gains tax rate. Wala namang ganon. Apply mo pa rin dyan, top rate na 35% or yung 25% na sa mga corporations.
Okay. Thank you, attorney, for enlightening us with that explanation. Pero ito, may question din ako personally about that one. Kasi if for example, 'di ba, meron tayong may kailangan siyang i-account. So the accounting system should be aligned with how crypto values are para siyang paano siya paano sinusukat yung crypto values over time. So,
Yeah.
oh, 'di ba? And
Record mo, ginagawa na nila yan sa US di ba? May mga applications pa nga, if you remember before yung Libra tax, di ba?
okay.
But I don't think Libra tax is still active. Pero yeah, it's difficult, but you can use software for this so that you can determine yung fair market
Okay.
value at the time na dinidispose mo siya.
Okay. So
In
it's
fact,
like
in the
it's like
US,
averaging, no? Parang yun yung dating,
in fact,
ina-average niya over time.
in fact, in the US, para ma-consider na na disposition yung cryptocurrency, like for example, Bitcoin, you don't have to convert it to legal tender or to USD. The fact that you're converting your Bitcoin to Ether is considered already as a disposition, no, in the US. Therefore, kailangan mo pang i-account yung naging yung naging gain or loss mo when you traded Bitcoin to Ether and to another currency. So medyo complicated talaga. It's really an accounting nightmare. But in the United States, that's the quirk or the consequence of their characterization that cryptocurrency is a property, no? So yun ang naging problem nila doon. Kasi if you don't consider it as a currency for tax purposes, each time na tinitrade mo siya to another cryptocurrency, considered as if binenta mo yung it's as if binenta mo yung Bitcoin mo for US dollar and then you used your US dollar to buy another crypto, which is Ether.
Okay. Thank you, attorney, for that for that clarification. By the way, I just would like to share also with you kanina Sly here, my co-host is sharing something interesting about the technicalities of the cryptocurrencies, whereas nagkakaroon ng parang sort of philosophical question on the ownership of cryptos. Maybe Sly here can expound more on what we are sharing a while ago before our broadcast about the ownership of cryptos. Go ahead, Sly.
Okay, so let me just touch upon it very quickly. So I got into when I started out in blockchain. I started out in EOS blockchain, and I was able to talk to a lot of the engineers who was doing the EOS blockchain. One of the biggest conversations that always came up was the fact that do you really own your your cryptos? I mean, yeah, you have a wallet. Okay, you have a wallet. It's there. Okay, choose any crypto app wallet. You'll have your wallet address, and when you purchase up cryptos, it arrives in your wallet. But the reason why you can access, okay, that particular crypto is because of your private key. Now, when you look at the definition of a wallet, it's basically a collection of keys, or in this case, private keys, meaning you only have access to that part of the blockchain where your account is held, which is your wallet address. Okay, so in terms of what I'm trying to say here is the argument I had with the engineers, which I now I side with the engineers, is that you don't really own your cryptos. You have access to them, but at the end of the day, the blockchain owns the cryptos. Because let's look at Ethereum for a bit. Okay, you can only send Ethereum to another Ethereum address. That meaning Ethereum resides on the Ethereum blockchain. It doesn't live on Cardano. It doesn't live on Bitcoin. It stays within the Ethereum ecosystem. However, you, the user, because of your crypto app and your private keys, you have access to do what you need to do within your wallet address because of your private key. Yeah, so I'll stop there before I get too technical. Okay.
So parang sinasabi niya technically speaking it's a common common property, right? Parang ganun ba, Sly? Something like that.
Yeah. If you ask me, the way to determine ownership is by determining who has control. So, and there are different ways to exercise control. One is private key. If you have the private key directly, then you own it. If it gets stolen, then it becomes a legal issue who owns it. But that's a legal issue now, right? But we don't need to resolve that because that's complicated. But as a general principle, if you hold the private key, then you have control, right? You own it. In the case of exchanges, you don't hold the private key. but the exchange basically has an IOU such that you can withdraw it upon instruction. All right. So therefore, you have control. You don't need to withdraw it at this time, but you can withdraw it if you want, which means you have control. And therefore, for legal reasons, including for tax purposes, you are the owner of those cryptocurrency. From a philosophical standpoint, palagi natin pinag-uusapan yan. If your crypto is held is stored in an exchange, di ba? You don't owe it, di ba? Sabi, di ba ni Trace Mayer, di ba? Not your coins, not your not your keys, not your coins, di ba? Yung sabi ni Anthony Pomplian. I honestly I don't know kung siya yung nag-start nun, pero sabi niya, di ba? No keys, no cheese, di ba? Pero so yeah, that's very philosophical, but from a legal standpoint, and specifically in relation to what we're discussing right now, taxes, di ba? As long as you exercise control and you can withdraw it from an exchange, you're the owner of that, and you are therefore liable for any tax implications relating to that asset.
I see. Thank you. Thank you, gents, for clarifying those things, no? So, yeah. Ayun, mukhang ano, no, mukhang this is yet to be discovered pa until being clarified by the government itself. Medyo madami pa tayong mga regulatory questions at hand. And that's the reason why I was suggesting a while ago na aside from the people from the government na who knows cryptocurrency, they might as well do consultations in the community. For well, siguro not because they're sharing power or whatever. It's just to be empathetic on how we actually feel, or 'di ba, what we're actually doing. Kasi kanina nabanggit ni ni Luis, and it's funny that they're willing to pay 1 million pesos worth of bounty for those who will hunt down, for example, Axie players who do not pay taxes. Imagine, well, if you were gonna be asking a scholar or a player how much, parang magkano lang ang mababayarang tax niyan versus doon sa 1 million bounty. That's funny, diba? Diba?
Yeah.
You get to collect a few thousands over the 1 million bounty that you'll be paying those who wanted to hunt them down. So parang that sounds a bit odd pagdating sa
The BIR
pagdating
understands that.
mm,
They understand that. Kaya usually what they do, they have priorities when it comes to enforcement and audit.
okay.
Basically, so that those people, not only to like maximize their enforcement efforts, but also to choose yung mga certain taxpayers as an example. If narinig nyo nga recently yung sa news yun sa social media influencers, di ba? Meron daw recently, hindi pa masyadong nagsasalita si BIR, but they're saying that they're already investigating this couple na YouTube vlogger who reportedly recently deleted yung YouTube niya. So very obvious na kung sino 'yon. So that's going to be so siguro na lang din sa mga friends natin sa community, siguro medyo I guess yun na lang ang practical advice natin. Di ba? Wag nating i-post sa Facebook siguro yung mga Lamborghini natin, di ba? Tesla natin para hindi kasi otherwise we can understand the BIR you would really be the first target pag ganon, di ba?
I
Si
do
Luis
think
kasi
also
pinapakita
na
yung Lambo niya eh. Wag mo pakita yung Lambo mo,
man.
Luis.
I don't even drive. That's the problem. So you know what? So here's the other. I want to give the flip side to what Raf was saying, because I think that so there's two forces acting against Axie Infinity right now. So one is regulatory, so yung the government agencies and stuff like that. The other force is the one that is painting Axie Infinity like it's a Ponzi scheme or it's some kind of scam. So ang nangyayari kasi dyan, so the community is being attacked on both sides, no? And one of the responses of the community when they are said to be a scam or a Ponzi scheme, when they're accused of that, ang ginagawa nila, they'll talk about how, no, but totoo yung pera eh. Here, look, nakabili ako ng motor. 'di ba? Na-upgrade ko yung bahay namin, napaayos ko yung bahay namin, whatever, 'di ba? So they're showing physical evidence of the fact na kumita nga sila talaga from here. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's not a Ponzi scheme just because you earned money from it, because many Ponzi schemes actually do allow people to earn money from it, but that's one of the motivations. So, it's kind of I guess it's kind of an unfortunate consequence of parang these two separate forces that are acting on the community right now. We're trying to look for a balance now. Granted, the stories of those people those Axie players who, yung nasa Jessica Soho na, na bumili ng bahay, parang medyo extreme yung story na yun eh. And I mean, that's the reason why it's on TV, of course, right? Because that's a fairly extreme story. The more average Axie story to me is the one that's more interesting. Just the average person who was not making any money before and now is making somewhere between 15 to maybe 25,000 pesos per month. That's such a big deal. Na if there was a couple of 100,000 Filipinos that suddenly found a way to make a living wage out of a blockchain game, that is a far more interesting story for me than the one person who bought 2 houses or a Lamborghini. Wala pa namang ganon. There's no Lamborghini story, thank God. But parang you know what I mean? Parang it's what I like about this story is not the spike, it's the scale. So parang what I want to do is figure out a way to make it so that there are more people who can have access to this or try it out. At least try it out. Try it out without the term for it is don't bet the farm on this investment, meaning don't go all in, no? Like, is there a way for you to safely try this stuff? The scholarship programs are a really, really great way to do that. Unfortunately, there's only so many managers in the world. Diba? So parang eventually mauubusan ng capital yung mga tao eh. But basically, that's the reason why I'm so into this movement right now eh. Parang the idea that you can connect low-income people with maybe some middle-class people who have a little bit of spare capital and find a way to generate just a living wage. It's not like I'm not trying to make everyone wealthy. That's very unrealistic eh. But the idea na parang the average person is making what 10,000 pesos a month right now. Yun yung average natin across the entire country. So if you can make even a little bit more than that, that's already such a massive improvement eh. So that's what I'm trying to focus on as much as I can. But syempre, I mean, media will be media. They will talk about the extreme parts of this story because it's more interesting TV. Well, yun.
Kasalanan
Anyway,
ni Madam Jessica yan.
That is why. Well, yun nga eh. So, by the way, I never met her, ha? Parang yung nag-interview sa akin was one of her producers. It wasn't Jessica, so...
What?
Yes, Atty. Padilla, you're about to say something.
Yung mga nagtatawag sa Axie Infinity na na Ponzi scheme, it's most likely that they also don't understand what Ponzi is. But all I can say is if this is really Ponzi, we might have heard already from the SEC, right? In the same manner that they've called out for Saj before, right?
Yep.
All right. And then, pero siguro lang to avoid yung mga perception, kasi sometimes we can't avoid naman people making those remarks eh, even if that's not true. And people who don't understand, then they suddenly believe that, no? Siguro we should police then the community. Now, we don't do things that, di ba, yung mga scammers typically do, like that statement, no, making statement na, wag na, kapag siguro may nagsabi sa Axie Infinity na scam yan, either we ignore it na lang, or we do something else, but definitely not by saying, scam ba to? Kumita nga ako dito eh. Luis, if you remember, the last person I heard saying that was already, di ba, nasa advisory na, tsaka cease and desist order ng SEC, si Rich Apuntar. Naalala ko when we were debating before whether for Saj is a Ponzi scheme. He keeps on defending that it's not a Ponzi scheme because people are really making money. That's really irrelevant. Kung yun lang ang sasabihin natin sa community, yun lang sasabihin natin, ignore na lang natin rather than saying that Kasi magtutunog scammer talaga tayo even if we are not And then second, we also help siguro police our community, make sure na walang gumagamit sa Axie Infinity to scam other people. Kasi dati sa Bitcoin, dati sa ICO, dati sa crypto mining, they will dangle whatever is hot to scam other people. So we can already expect scammers will use Axie Infinity, not really players, but they're really scammers.
They already are. Yeah, they already are, for sure. I mean, that's why it's sobrang daming hacking
May mga
incidents or
stories
fraud
niyan na Attorney
incidents.
Raf. So for the benefit of our viewers or also our panelists right now. May mga tao na or managers, they will ask 100 pesos bago ka daw nila i-hire. Parang placement fee ang dating. And then suddenly mawawala na yung Facebook nila. Like someone knocking on their door, good day managers. So, sige, gusto mo? Bigyan mo muna ako, send my GCash 100 pesos. Then I will try to get back to you and screen you. Sarang ganyan. May mga na ganyan. And then all of a sudden, it's a fake page that they're doing.
If a person is smart, that person will be able to distinguish and separate this activity from the wider Axie Infinity ecosystem, and separate it further from Sky Mavis, which is the company behind Axie Infinity. Meron kasi tayo narinig.
Daming layers nun, Raf. Like from a comprehension standpoint, ang hirap i-separate nun lahat. For a casual person, that's really hard, right?
But maybe this is where yung education then from the community will come into the picture and will help. Pero I've noted somebody smart calling Axie Infinity a scam and I begin to question now whether that person is being reasonable or is just wants to become parang tulfo na style galit na galit sa Axie Infinity. Hindi ko naman alam kung ano nagawa ng Axie community sa kanya.
Parang kilala ko yan, attorney. Anyway, I have a question though.
Due respect.
Oo. I have a question though. With going back dun sa headline natin kanina, sabi specifically on the news, but I'm not sure if it's really quoted properly, that the BIR will try to do or create a facility to tax Sky Mavis specifically because of their activities. So parang my question is why and how? Parang ikaw, would you know kung paano nila gagawin yan?
I can't answer specifically as to how kasi sila mismo they're figuring it out But yung general principle niyan is they can by regulation and they are authorized to do this under the law. They can appoint somebody, especially intermediaries, as withholding agent. So once you withholding agent is appointed, then that withholding agent will now have an obligation to collect. So ganyan siguro yung pwede nilang gawin. The details I can't answer, but I can foresee the possibility. I'm not saying this is a good policy, but something that they might consider like licensed virtual asset service provider and consider them as a withholding agent to resort to basically deduct tax in the same manner as banks are deducting, di ba, yung interest income natin sa mga deposits natin, something like that,
Okay. So ibig sabihin, parang it will be on the transactions that the tax will, yung mga transactions ng players, breeders and managers that gets taxed if that will be enforced. Tama ba yung intindi ko? Or I think that's how it will
ano yung
work.
kinikita nung community treasury?
Okay.
Because Sky Mavis itself doesn't actually earn directly kasi from those transactions. All of the AXS, SLP, all of the ETH that is spent in the marketplace, it gets collected into the community treasury. So what makes this a very strange thing to try to tax is because technically Sky Mavis doesn't even have control over the treasury. They're just one of the people who have voting rights for it. Yung voting rights is determined by proportion of your stake
AXS.
in AXS. Yeah, so hindi ganun ka straightforward yun So there's a couple of reasons why it's also even weirder. You can't just tax, even if you assume that the community treasury was the thing that you were going to tax. How do you even determine how much of that was from Filipino customers. That's not revealed anywhere. So parang dun pa lang, you've already got some question marks, no? I mean, like, how do you even know kung anong proportion nung laman nung community treasure na yon is actually as a result of Filipino residents? I don't know. I don't think there's a way you can know that from blockchain records.
Exactly.
And then the way that the marketplace transactions work, it's largely anonymous unless the players have gone to the trouble of identifying themselves. But the actual marketplace transactions, I don't know who I bought my Axies from. I mean, I know their Ether address, but that's it. Diba? Like, I don't know kung Pinoy sila or Vietnamese or Latin American or whatever. Like, I don't know.
Exactly.
So, medyo may mga gaps siya na hindi ko alam kung paano mo i-solve. Like, and it would be very interesting to try to see if the BIR can compel Sky Mavis to make changes across their entire business model just to accommodate the taxation practices of a single country. Like, wow, that is a big ask. So I don't know. I don't know how they're gonna do it.
And if you're Sky Mavis after the Philippines, what's next?
Yeah, yun nga,
Yes,
diba?
Venezuela, other markets.
Yeah, yun nga, diba? And as a general policy of Sky Mavis, they don't actually want to have these parang country-specific fights because there's way too many countries, diba? Like that's just it's just hindi siya nagsiscale. So I don't know. It's a very strange situation.
This is actually just an example of a larger problem from a tax regulator's perspective, no? How they can tax the digital economy, and maybe the existing paradigm does not apply to this. Kasi designed yung yung traditional na conventional paradigm natin ng mga withholding agents, self-reporting doon sa industrial physical na 'di ba? Tama yung sinabi nung representative from BIR, not because this is digital does not mean incomes will not be taxable. That's true. But again, in terms of like yung mga nuances na yung general principle tama pero yung mga issues, 'di ba? Yung mga overlaps, yung mga problems insofar as enforcement, paano ko i-report yung income ko, no? Nandun lahat yung problems So it's very easy for the BIR to say it's your obligation under the law to register and report your income, but all the challenges that we've mentioned earlier about accounting, no, that has not been addressed yet. And somehow they're just expecting that we will be able to report the income properly. We will be able to report the income properly. Sabi ko nga kanina, di ba, full respect with Attorney David, pero kung kami hindi mag-agree sa certain points, paano pa
yung gobyerno pa kaya, no? Yeah. Right.
I see. So it's been a very, very interesting topic that we had tonight. No, grabe, ang dami pang naiwan. Parang mas marami pa tayo ngayong tanong, no, more than answers that we gathered. Kasi up until our government issued tama ba, Tony, an IRR, no, implementing rules and circular memorandum that pertaining to this one. We will always have these questions at hand.
James,
anyway.
Just a very quick remark. Let me just remind the community that we can take initiative, by the way, by writing BIR, request for rulings. No, there's such mechanism. We don't have to wait for the BIR to issue the regulation. We can actually write. No, to resolve
open letter sa Facebook.
May process yan, and I would recommend you consult advisor in writing. Hindi yung parang lang. Pwede yung sinasabi mo, Luis, yung public yung parang query, yung ganyan FAQ. But that's not the effective approach. Kasi usually when we write mga rulings, we craft it in a way na we present the issue. Tapos pe-present na namin yung what we believe to be the legal position that we should take.
Right.
Such that pag ni-resolve nila yon, that's the approach. Basically, parang sinuggest mo na kung ano interpretation. If you engage a tax advisor or a lawyer to assist you in obtaining rulings, that will be more effective.
Okay. But I have a question personal to you guys, no? Do you think it's wise to do that ngayong panahon na to? Sabi nga ni Luis, it's about to go election time. So ako, well, if you're gonna ask me, not to sound anti-government or what, but I wanted to point out is maraming makikisakay dito sa issue na to for sure. particularly sa mga eyeing politicians. And maybe it's not wise to do that now until we finish. Maybe we can draft it, but not. Well, that's my personal opinion. I don't know with you guys. How do you think about that?
I
Diba?
mean, so me personally, I'm just gonna file my taxes. I mean, it's like I'm just gonna just best effort na lang. Like
Yeah.
if it doesn't match what they expect or
Wanted.
what they eventually decide later, then oh well, ganun eh. At least I gave it a shot, right? And granted, I mean, I did I mention earlier how much I earned? So I've only earned 21,000 pesos. So like hindi pa ganun, like it's not a large amount of money, right? So actually, if I'm not mistaken,
Wala pa
0% pa yun eh. 'Di ba? Parang
wala pa
kasi ano, yeah,
250,000.
kaya nga eh, 'di ba? So 250,000 pesos yung
Tama ba
threshold eh,
math
before they'll
natin?
even, yeah.
21,000 wala pa, no? Ay,
Yeah.
Sobrang layo.
lagpas na pala.
What?
21,000 times 12.
Yeah, well, hindi. That's assuming that I continue playing Axie Infinity at the rate that I'm currently playing. So, I mean, that's the
Yeah.
problem, right? Because
And
ano eh, pag
and if the SLP doesn't go down, if it goes
yun,
up,
isa pa yun
mas
eh. Isa pa
malaki
yun
yung
eh.
kita ni Luis, 'di ba?
Well, hindi ko na-report yun. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
And he said
I'm
that on air.
joking. I'm
And he said
joking.
that on
I'm
air,
not
guys.
serious,
Anyway.
guys. But I do fully intend to go through this entire process just to see how hard or whatever it currently is. I mean, I will try to work with an accountant, obviously, because I don't know what I'm doing, right? But I think yung intention ko is to go through this process personally. Parang at least you can show that parang us like, oh my god, it was incredibly difficult. We had to go through all of this calculation, and then I'm not even sure at the end of the day kung tama nga yung ni-report namin and tama nga yung binayaran ko, di ba? All of that stuff. I think that's still a learning process. And yeah, I'll come back on the show in, I don't know, in 2022, and then we'll have a long conversation about my tax experience.
And then, by the way, kanina na coin ni Attorney Padilla yung experience of the US with this. I also, well, we have community members from abroad, mga OFWs who are trading cryptos in other countries. For example, is New Zealand. Doon sa kanila naman, what they actually do is what Attorney Mike is espousing. So it was the likes of Luis, I mean not Luis, but BloomX, whom they actually collude to collect the taxes. Kasi these guys, the VCEs or the exchanges, local exchanges, are the ones who are regulated eh. And for example, I talked to a trader there kasi sabi ko we will be having the show, no? So I asked what's their experience. Mas mabilis, mas seamless daw yung ganoon. And hindi nga lang nire-report yung capital gains. Kasi that will
Wala
be
yata silang capital gains tax.
so but what they
Ang
actually
bansa walang capital gains tax eh. So if your earning is considered capital gains, it's exempt.
okay.
Oo,
But
it's
yun,
tax
yung
exempt.
yung tax nila is based na kapag in-exchange mo na to fiat the money, no? So pagka exchange mo, deducted na yon, i-remit na yon ni exchange kay BIR. Oh, this is the tax paid by this address. Kasi not necessarily, 'di ba? Kung hindi pa verified yung address. Well, I don't know if they allow that, pero kung but this is the tax that was that we got from this transaction by this wallet, the wallet. And then yun, parang automatic na siya. So it's ako personally, baka mas fair for ng fairness, no? Kasi
Pero-
parang sige attorney, sa akin kasi parang unfair lang na you tax me nga talaga based on kung fluctuating yan.
Okay. Kaso ang problem kasi natin under current law, if you're an individual, you're taxed at, di ba yung progressive rate na top rate 35%. Tapos, you have to determine your gross income, you have to determine your deductibles, you have other income aside from crypto trading, all that you have to factor into to determine your tax liability. The exchange can't determine that. No? So therefore, they cannot just withheld. No? Hindi yan katulad sa employee, yung employer alam yung salary mo, so magkaalam niya magkano ang i-withhold niya. Or for example, in the case of stock exchange, na merong stock transaction tax, alam niya mako-compute niya kasi specific yung amount na yan. Or pagdating sa mga banks, yung tax sa interest income, alam nila kasi specific yon. Doesn't apply pagdating sa taxable income, corporate income tax, tsaka individual income tax, because of the several factors that you'll have to factor in to determine the ultimate tax liability, the ultimate tax liability.
Okay. Sige. Noted on that, attorney, and thank you, no, for clarifying. Ayun. So we're more than an hour already discussing all of this stuff, and I've learned a lot from you guys, and thank you very much for gracing this show. But before we actually part ways, may nagpapa-shoutout dito, Attorney Padilla. Happy birthday daw, sabi ni Diana Danila. Ayan, happy birthday daw, bro. Sabi niya, kaklase mo daw siya sa law school. Ayan. Ayan. So happy birthday. Yun, before we part ways, any last words, gents, for our audience, maybe, or advice that you can give our players, managers, traders alike, with regards to filing our taxes here in the Philippines with crypto earnings. Ayan. Who wants to go first?
Go for it, Raf.
Actually, if I can, I think a lot has been said already with regard to that subject. If I can just urge lang the community. I know na parang it sounded bad talaga, the recent press release. And I really understand naman how it feels kung ikaw yung player, tapos you hear yung mga issues na to. No? So, kung scam or unregistered or hindi unregulated ni BSP, taxable yung income, yung lahat ng issues na to. Pero please, let's be more critical. Kung mapapansin yung mga news reports pa lang yan, the problem I've mentioned earlier, media will tend to sensationalize. Antayin na lang natin yung yung mga pronouncements, issuances ng government agencies. And sa government agencies, I really urge them to issue with this kahit statement lang, something clear na we can interpret as their policy. Kasi hindi rin naman maganda na parang ningas kuogo na nagsasalita sila ng ganito tapos walang follow-up. So I really hope, simple statement. We rather rely doon sa statement na makikita natin sa website nila rather than yung news reports na makikita mo sa Manila Bulletin or whatever. So that's my final remark. Let's give our regulators the benefit of the doubt. Kasi tayo rin naman as a community, ilang beses ko na rin naririnig na gusto natin for purposes of legitimacy in order for this industry to move forward. Exactly as you quoted earlier doon sa article, James, na sinabi mo. We might not agree with this, pero a lot of us believe na regulation is a critical part for mass adoption. Perhaps ang Axie Infinity, however, makes that statement questionable because Axie Infinity, very much unregulated, is now, di ba, the poster boy of mass adoption. No? But nevertheless, most of us still believe, di ba, that regulation will be important. In which case, welcome natin tong opportunity na to clarify and also to remind the community of certain general principles of law. Na lang natin let's interpret this na lang as us getting free legal advice from BIR or from BSP or from SEC.
Yeah. Thank you, Attorney Padilla. No. By the way, I would like to honor Attorney Padilla for gracing us with his presence despite the the occasion today. Grabe, napaka-generous niya sa time niya. He was actually, well, for the knowledge of our viewers, he's actually the one who wanted to push this also kasi he wants to be of service to the community, to our fellow traders, fellow cryptocurrency enthusiasts. Kasi nga, this has been very hot topic. Thank you, Attorney, for that one. And then, there we go. And of course, let's hear it also from Luis Buenaventura.
Mine is a little just short lang. Just keep grinding, guys. We'll try to figure this out together. I don't think the answers are there yet, but at least we're asking the right questions. So parang just look at this as a work in progress. And we'll work together to find a solution that works for as many of us as we can. Yun na lang. I think that's the only thing we can hope for at the moment. Everyone just do the best they can. And you should pay your taxes naman. We're not saying you shouldn't. We just need to make it easier. That's all. Thank you so much, guys.
Yeah, thank you also to Luis, no? Despite his very busy schedule, nandito yan, kasama natin siya ngayon. Thank you, bro. And of course, I would like to also thank Sly. Do you want to say something, my co-host?
Yeah, I'll keep mine short as well. Just for the community, stop posting Lambos, but let's just help each other out. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, right. Thank you, Sly. Tama, tama. Wag niyo na post yung Lambo, yun na lang motor ninyo, 'di ba? Just post your motorcycles. Thank you, guys, and I really appreciate the presence of our panelists, my co-host, also those who viewed our viewers, no, yung mga nanonood sa atin. Maraming salamat to those people who stayed with us until the end. Mukhang consistently, no, we've got good viewership right now. Salamat sa inyo, gentlemen. And of course, salamat dun sa topic that we are talking about. There are a lot of questions now, pero tama si Luis. This is for me naman, tama si Luis, no. At least we're asking the right questions, and we are helping each other in this community. By the way, ako naman ang masasabi ko, the industry itself is at its infancy. If you remember the times during the time, by the way, na nung mga bago pa lang ang internet, ganito din eh. Well, not in the Philippines, but in other countries, if you will read it, makikita nyo in the history that there are also regulatory questions at hand. Pagdating sa internet, now look at where internet is. And I do believe these are just birth pains. Kasi wala naman talagang magiging outcome na maganda kung hindi natin dadaanan tong mga birth pains na ito. Yan. With that, I would like to thank everyone again. Thank you very much, and we'll see you again the next broadcast. Goodbye. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, community.